10 songs, 0 expectations, all-time classics. Some were written in 10 minutes. One was scribbled on a fried chicken bag. Another had its own co-writer calling the lyrics just plain dumb. And the guy screaming the lead vocal on one of the most sampled funk records in history? He wasn't even in the band. He was the roadie. These are the songs you've been dancing to your whole life. At cookouts, at weddings, at every party that ever mattered. And the people who made them thought they were making jokes. This is the countdown of 10 songs that refuse to stay down. 10 Jungle Boogie Kool and the Gang, 1974. Here is something most people do not know about one of the most sampled funk songs in history. The man delivering that iconic voice, the raw, grunting, get down, get down. He was not in the band. He was the roadie. His name was Don Boyce. He carried their equipment. He was not a singer, not a performer. Just the guy who made sure the gear showed up. In 1973, Kool and the Gang had been grinding for years. Solid musicians, real credibility. But their label wanted something different. Something to chase the success of Manu Dibango's Soul Makossa. So the band went into the studio and started playing. Ronald Bell built the music. But when they needed someone to deliver those wild-spoken vocals, they looked around the room and grabbed the roadie. Don Boyce stepped up to that microphone like it was nothing. The song has almost no lyrics. It is just jungle boogie repeated over and over, pure rhythm, pure groove. It sounds like it was thrown together in an afternoon because it basically was. Kool and the Gang cut jungle boogie, Hollywood swinging, and funky stuff all in one night. That jam session experiment shot to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 2 R&B. It sold over 1 million copies. Got sampled by everyone from the Beastie Boys to Madonna. Then, 20 years later, it showed up in Pulp Fiction and introduced the whole thing to a brand new generation. A roadie's voice. One night in the studio. 50 years on the dance floor. 9 Shake Your Booty KC and the Sunshine Band. 1976. How many times can you say one word in a number 1 hit and still get away with it? 96, I counted. Harry Wayne Casey and Rick Finch had already scored 2 number 1s with Get Down Tonight, and that's the way I like it. Both songs were catchy, simple, and repetitive. The formula was clearly working, so they decided to push it further. They were watching Miami dance floors. They saw people doing the bump, noticed what was happening with the crowd, and Finch later said they just tried to write about what they saw. Their whole approach. Pay attention to what the people are doing, then transfer it back into the production. So they wrote a song that was literally just instructions. Shake your booty. That is the entire concept. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your booty. Music critics rolled their eyes. Radio programmers called it too simple. Some people straight up called it nonsense. KC and the Sunshine Band did not care. They were not writing poetry. They were writing instructions. Get on the floor, shake your booty. Do not overthink it. Shake, shake, shake. The song hit number 1 on both the pop and R&B charts. Number 1 on the R&B side for 3 weeks. Here is the thing about a song this simple. It does not age. 50 years from now, people will still know exactly what shake your booty means. fact-checking every detail, bringing these records back to life because this music deserves to be remembered. If you've ever said, "Damn, I didn't know that," while watching, just hit subscribe. It's free. It takes 2 seconds. And it tells YouTube to show this channel to more people who love this music the same way we do. Let's build this together.
Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your
7 Car Wash Rolls Royce, 1976. Norman Whitfield wrote one of the biggest disco hits of the 70s on a fried chicken bag during a basketball break. By 1976, Whitfield had already built his legend. The man behind I Heard It Through the Grapevine wore Papa Was a Rollin' Stone, Motown royalty. When director Michael Schultz came to him about doing the soundtrack for a comedy about a car wash, Whitfield wasn't exactly inspired. But he needed the money for his new label, so he said yes.
This ain't no place to be if you plan on getting. Some of the work gets kinda hard.
Problem was, he couldn't figure out how to write a song about washing cars. He sat with it for weeks, and nothing clicked. Then one day at the studio, the band went outside to shoot some basketball during a break. Whitfield stayed inside, eating fried chicken, watching them through the window. And suddenly, it hit him. He grabbed the paper bag his chicken came in and started scribbling. A song about a car wash. A place where the boss doesn't mind if you act a fool, where you might meet your girl. He wanted the music to sound like a machine, to mimic the actual rhythm of a car wash in motion. That was Rolls Royce's debut single. It went straight to #1 on both the pop and R&B charts. The soundtrack won a Grammy. Norman Whitfield didn't want this project. He took it for the check, and he still couldn't help but make something timeless. That's what separates the great ones. Even their throwaway work has genius in it. 6. The Rubber Band Man. The Spinners, 1976. The co-writer of this song thought the lyrics were, in her exact words, just plain dumb. She said it to the producer's face. He recorded it anyway. Tom Bell was one of the architects of the Philadelphia sound. He had already produced 5 #1 R&B hits for the Spinners. But by 1976, the group needed a crossover pop hit. And Bell had an idea, a very personal one. His son Mark was being teased at school for being overweight. The other kids called him the Fat Man. Bell wanted to change the way his son saw himself. So he wrote a song about a big guy who was the life of the party. The guy everyone waited for because when he showed up, things got started. Bell brought in his songwriting partner Linda Creed to help shape the melody. She thought it was ridiculous. A song about a dancing large man with a walking cane, keeping time? She said it flat out, just plain dumb. Bell changed the title to The Rubber Band Man and even choreographed a whole dance routine involving actual rubber bands. The song Creed thought was dumb hit #2 on the Hot 100. Stayed there for 3 weeks, topped the R&B chart, became one of the Spinners' biggest hits. Decades later, it showed up in Avengers, Infinity War, introducing it to millions of people who weren't even born when it came out. Tom Bell wrote this for his son, to make a bullied kid feel like the main character. Sometimes the songs that sound the simplest carry the deepest love. 5. Play That Funky Music Wild Cherry, 1976. A black audience member heckled a white rock band. They wrote it down. It became their only hit. Wild Cherry was a hard rock cover band from Ohio. By 1975, disco was taking over and their gigs were drying up fast. Nobody wanted Led Zeppelin covers when they could be dancing. The band's leader, Rob Parisi, kept pushing his bandmates toward more dance music. They pushed back. They didn't want to be labeled a disco band.
Got to start to feeling so low. And they were dancing and singing and moving to the groove.
Then one night at a club in Pittsburgh, playing for a predominantly black audience, someone shouted during a break, "Are you white boys gonna play some funky music?" Parisi didn't get offended. He grabbed a pen and a drink order pad and wrote down exactly what was happening to them. A rock band forced to change with the times. The song was autobiographical and almost self-mocking. Once I was a boogie singer, playing in a rock and roll band. The lyrics made everyone uncomfortable. "Play that funky music, white boy." His own father told him to take it out. Label executives were worried. Parisi refused to change a single word.
I thought that they were out of their minds. Well, so still I kept on fighting.
That self-aware, almost ridiculous track went to #1 on both the pop and R&B charts. Billboard named Wild Cherry Best Pop Group of the Year. A Grammy nomination followed. They went from being heckled at a club to performing at the Grammys in a matter of months. And then they never had another hit. Wild Cherry became the textbook definition of a one-hit wonder. But what a way to go. A song born from embarrassment, from being told you don't belong, from deciding to make yourself belong anyway. The joke became the legend. For Disco Duck Rick Dees, 1976. This man got fired from his radio job for mentioning his own song. 5 days later, it was #1 in America. Rick Dees was a morning DJ in Memphis, not a musician, a disc jockey who made people laugh between songs. In 1976, disco was everywhere, and Dees thought it was ripe for parody. He met a guy at his gym who could do a perfect duck voice. That was all he needed. Dees wrote Disco Duck in a single day. A novelty song about disco culture with a quacking Donald Duck-style voice layered in. It was intentionally silly, the kind of thing you'd expect to hear once and forget. He released it on a small Memphis label. Here is where it gets wild. The song started catching on across the South, but Dees wasn't allowed to play it on his own radio show. Station management called it a conflict of interest. Rival stations in Memphis wouldn't touch it either. Disco Duck was a regional hit that couldn't get airplay in its own city. On October 11th, 1976, Dees mentioned the song on his show. He didn't even play it, just mentioned it. His station fired him on the spot. 5 days later, Disco Duck hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It sold over 4 million copies, won a People's Choice Award, even appeared in Saturday Night Fever, though his manager made the call to keep it off the soundtrack album. Dees landed at a rival station, played his song whenever he wanted, and went on to host the weekly Top 40 countdown for decades. A joke song, a duck voice from a guy at the gym, a firing that happened right before the biggest moment of his career. If that is not proof the universe has a sense of humor, nothing is. Three Troglodyte, Caveman, the Jimmy Castor Bunch, 1972.
At home, listening to his...
Jimmy Castor made a funk song about cavemen and introduced a character named Bertha Butt. It went top 10. It became a hip-hop sample goldmine. And it is exactly as ridiculous as it sounds. Jimmy Castor was a serious musician. He started as a doo-wop singer in the 50s, played saxophone, wrote songs for Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. The man had real credentials. But in 1972, he decided to do something completely different. Troglodyte opens with Castor narrating a story about prehistoric times. A caveman who sees a woman, hits her with a club, drags her by the hair. The whole primal caveman bit, set to the funkiest groove you have ever heard. And then he introduces Bertha Butt, one of the Butt sisters.
Might come off. Got a piece of hair in your hand, she be swimming away from you and stuff. Move.
This should not have worked. So it was a novelty record wrapped in a serious funk arrangement. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Was it satire? Was it just silly? Did it matter? The song peaked at number 6 on the Hot 100. Number 4, R&B, sold over 500,000 copies and went gold. And then it became one of the most sampled songs in hip-hop history. That funky breakdown has been chopped up by producers for decades. Castor even brought Bertha Butt back in 1975 for the Bertha Butt Boogie.
Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me. She looked down on him. Give me, she said, I'll sock it to you, daddy.
If you've ever thought your silliest idea wasn't worth pursuing, think about this. A song about cavemen became foundational to modern hip-hop. Sometimes you have to let yourself be ridiculous to make something timeless.
And she said, I'll sock it to you, daddy. He said, I ain't gonna lie to you, but he started one of those prehistoric expressions, you know.
2. Kung Fu Fighting Carl Douglas. 1974.
It was a little bit frightening.
10 minutes, 2 takes, one of the best-selling singles in history. Carl Douglas was a Jamaican-born session singer living in London. His producer, Biddu, was British Indian. They had been working on a song called I Want to Give You My Everything. That was supposed to be the hit. They needed something for the B-side.
In fact, it was a little bit frightening. Things went fast as lightning.
Biddu asked Douglas if he had any lyrics lying around. Douglas pulled out a few scraps. One of them was about the Kung Fu movie craze sweeping through theaters. Bruce Lee had just changed everything. Enter the Dragon was a phenomenon. Biddu picked that one. They had 10 minutes of studio time left. 2 takes. That is all they recorded. And because it was just a B-side, Biddu went over the top with it. The huzz sounds, the chopping effects, the campy orchestral riff. He later said he didn't take any of it seriously because who was going to listen to the B-side anyway?
It was a little bit frightening.
11 million copies. Number 1 in 12 countries. Number 1 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the Soul Singles chart. One of the best-selling singles in music history. Neither of them were Chinese. Neither of them knew much about martial arts. They just saw what was happening in culture and threw something together. That B-side joke became immortal.
Those kids were fast as lightning.
One super freak Rick James. 1981.
Boys in the band. She says that I'm
Rick James wrote this song as a joke. His words, he made it so white people could have something to dance to. By 1981, Rick James had already established himself as a funk innovator. Mary Jane, Give It to Me, Baby, You and I. Serious music, deep grooves, the kind of artistry that made him a legend in the R&B community.
with me.
He was finishing the Street Songs album and needed one more track, so he threw something together quickly. He told Musician Magazine in 1983, I was in the studio and everything else was done. I just put Super Freak together really quickly. I wanted a silly song that had a bit of new wave texture to it. He even added a call and response vocal structure as a joke. He was not taking it seriously at all. The lyrics were risky. She's a very kinky girl, the kind you don't take home to mother. On A, DJ friend heard the early version and told James it was too dirty for radio. James cleaned it up slightly and gave him a co-writing credit for the help. Even after the changes, some stations hesitated. MTV refused to play the video entirely. They weren't playing black artists at the time. Rick James fought back publicly, and despite all of it, Super Freak became his biggest pop crossover hit. Number 16 on the Hot 100. Number 3, R&B. Number 1 on the dance chart for 3 weeks. Grammy nominated. But here is where the story goes further than Rick James himself. In 1990, MC Hammer sampled that bass line for You Can't Touch This. The sample was so prominent that James received a songwriting credit. When You Can't Touch This won the Grammy for Best R&B Song in 1991, Rick James won too. His joke song earned him his only Grammy. Rick James passed away in 2004. The Chappelle Show sketches made him a household name again, though not always for the reasons his music deserved. What people forget is that this was a musical genius, a man who could write and produce hits in his sleep. Super Freak was him goofing off, not taking himself seriously for 3 minutes. And that's the track that outlived everything else. That's the one still playing at every wedding, every party, every moment when people just want to let go. The joke became the legacy.
She's alright, she's alright. I really love to chase